Hello, everybody. Hi. We are ready to begin, and I hope you enjoyed your lunch. And I'd like to thank you all for coming to the FCC today to listen to our wonderful guest, Benedikt Fohr, who's the CEO of Hong Kong Philharmonic. Let me just start by asking, has anyone been to any of the concerts of this season yet? Yeah, great. So we have some fans. That's wonderful. So Benedikt, I see you have some friends in the audience too, which is great.
Sure, it's nice to see some very known people to me. Friends from Germany and England, and of course from Hong Kong. So it's a pleasure to be here.
And Switzerland, I heard.
So who's from Switzerland? Marco. Oh, Marco. Hi. Yeah.
So we're really delighted to have Benedikt come and talk to us today. The way we're going to organize it is Benedikt has a little bit of a presentation to give, and after that we'll be having a chat about all sorts of things that are in the presentation, in the video, lots of different issues related to Hong Kong Phil. And just at the last 10 minutes of our lunch, we will have time for Q&A for anyone in the audience. So Benedikt, let you take it away with the presentation.
Thank you very much, Karen. So again, pleasure to be here. I'm with Hong Kong Phil since 2019. We passed a quite interesting period, as all of you, over the last years, but it's great to be back. And we celebrate our 50th anniversary this season. Hong Kong Phil is, I think it's the oldest arts organization, professional arts organization in Hong Kong, founded in 1974. And so pleasure to talk about Hong Kong Phil. I see that the knowledge might be quite different, so we keep this talk quite short and leave it to questions to you to what you might be interested in. To start, we have a very short video to talk about Hong Kong Phil and our jubilee season, which started just before beginning of September. Thank you. Yeah, when did it start? I already mentioned it started in 1974. There was an orchestra before, but it was an amateur orchestra. So at that point, it was decided to create a professional orchestra, which has been called Sino-British Orchestra in the beginning, and then later it changed to Hong Kong Phil. So then over the time, they started to do their first tourings. In '83, they went to Singapore and Bangkok. In 2012, Jaap van Zweden took over the helm of the Hong Kong Phil as music director. So when he finished his term with Hong Kong Phil, end of this season in 2024, he will have worked for 12 years with the Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra and really raised the profile and the quality of the orchestra significantly. 12 years is a quite good time for a music director. Usually it varies between 6 and 8 to 10 years. So after 12 years, it's good for both parts to get new impulse and new ideas about the musical development of the orchestra. We are in very good terms, and at the moment we are looking to possibilities who could be the next music director of Hong Kong Phil, which takes, of course, quite some time, because we only could start to invite international conductors after the pandemic. So basically beginning of 2022, 23. And so we made a selection, a short list of possible candidates, and we are at the moment looking into these candidates. They all need to work with the orchestra at least once, if possible twice, so it takes time to make the schedule work and bring them together. In 2018, the orchestra did another tour to Europe, and in 2018 also the famous Ring Cycle recording was finished. By then all the 4 operas of the Ring from Richard Wagner had been recorded, and in 2019 the orchestra received the Orchestra Award by Gramophone magazine in London, which is a major award in the classic music business. So instead of taking advantage of this and starting the international touring, we had to go in the lockdown and stayed here for 3 or 4 years. But now we're taking up, and we presented this season not only the Hong Kong concerts, but also a lot of touring projects we are doing. We just started actually beginning of the season with concerts in Shanghai and Nanjing. In October we are going to Thailand, to Bangkok. We are going to Seoul and to Daegu in Korea. We are touring the Greater Bay Area in November twice, and we are going to Europe, Singapore and Europe in February, March 2024, which is a huge amount of touring projects, and considering all the visa and logistic challenges, it's probably a little bit too much, but we really wanted to go out and talk about Hong Kong and about the orchestra internationally. So I already mentioned the Gramophone Award, which was a main achievement. We had a lot of positive press about this, and people were asking, what is this orchestra from Hong Kong? It's great to discover this orchestra from Asia. We are now considered as one of the best orchestras in Asia, at least. And it was good to have this publicity to be on the international map in the music centers of the world. We have in the orchestra 96 professional musicians permanently employed. International distribution. We have around 50% Asians, which are mostly in the strings, coming from Korea, coming from Japan, coming from mainland China, also from Hong Kong. White strings, string is the tradition in Asia. There are very good string faculties, whilst the brass and wind faculties are mostly in Europe or in the US. So then that's why percussion, brass and wind players are usually from other parts of the world, which makes us a very international orchestra, and a nice gap between mainland China and the western part of the world. Everybody speaks about East-West here, and we are probably an example how this could work in a very good way. Talking about finances, our budget is around 60% provided by the Hong Kong government, and we are very grateful for that. Even during the pandemic, the government was very supportive to Hong Kong Phil, and we could keep our players, we could employ our players and our staff. By the way, staff, we have 40 people in the office working in 5 different departments. We have a marketing department, we have the director of marketing is here, Dennis. We have an artistic planning department, we have a development department which looks into our fundraising projects. We have an administration and finance, and we have an operational department. The operational department looks after all logistics from the venue to the transportation of instruments and orchestra musicians. So 40 people work in the office, and our office is right beside the cultural center in Chim Cha Tsui, in the administration building. Our home, how to say, our residence is the cultural center, which we have around 150 days per year, and the remaining we play 44 weeks. Every week 2 concerts from September to July, and so the remaining days we need to go to other venues, which is quite difficult in Hong Kong to find a place for such an orchestra to perform, or we go on tour. So we all hope that at one point the music center in West Kowloon might be at least decided, if not finished, but it will take still some time. We see now in West Kowloon, you all know the beautiful buildings in the Palace Museum or the M+, how this would attract the audience, open buildings with a nice view, with restaurants and with facilities. Nowadays, if you want to get, especially the younger generation, into a venue, into a concert hall, it needs to be an open space. You want to go with your friends, you want to spend a good evening, and if you know the cultural center, it's not really what the young generation is looking for nowadays. But that's what we have for now, and we are happy to be there and to work whenever it's available. So 60% is coming from the government, and about 20% is box office income, and 20% is fundraising. So quite a substantial part of our income is based on fundraising. To our European friends here, this is the difference to Europe. In Europe, cultural institutions are usually financed by 95% by the government. In America, it's the contrary. Maybe it's financed by 5%, if at all. So we are here around in the middle, and we have really to look into the private funding to make this orchestra work. Our total budget is between 180 million and 200 million Hong Kong dollar per year. We play overall 150 concerts. This includes, of course, the educational concerts of the orchestra in the different concert halls, not only in Cultural Center, also in Chun Won and Chun Man and Sha Tin and Yulong, wherever these places are. The main subscription concerts in Cultural Center are around 40 with 80 concerts, 40 programs with 80 concerts. And then we have a lot of educational activities where our musicians go in the schools, work with kids, giving master classes, coaching. So these are around 170 activities. These are mainly sponsored by Hong Kong Jockey Club. They sponsored our Keys to Music program, and now they put on a new program which is even larger, which is a program managed by the Jockey Club and including the Baptist University and Hong Kong Phil. And with this program, which is called Muse, they try to also find out how culture and also sport activities for young children, mostly primarily schools, has positive influence on their social development and intellectual development. So we are very grateful to be part of this, and over the next 6 years we will do a lot of these activities financed by the Hong Kong Jockey Club. We have an online page, Watch and Listen, where you can listen and watch some of our concerts, and they have around 1.3 million views per year, and 200 people attend our concerts face to face in the concert hall, and we just discussed this topic. It's very important to get the people in the hall. It's the video concerts are not a replacement for watching a concert face to face, to see the interaction between the artist and the audience. It makes the audience feel better and also makes the artist better. But of course, there are people who can't come, there are people too far away in other countries, so we are happy if they watch our online concerts. We just saw in this video the line-up. It's a very special line-up in this season. Very exclusive soloists, very expensive soloists, so we can't do this every season. But I mean, we started with Joshua Bell, we have Yo-Yo Ma coming, we had Rudolf Buchbinder coming from Austria, we have Sun-Jin Cho from Korea coming, and Lang Lang is performing with us in December. So these are all part of our subscription series, and we have conductors like Vasily Petrenko. He was already here last season. He's coming again. He's one of the shortlisted candidates, and there are others as well. And we also do some crossover programs with, you see here Ted Lowe, for instance. You see, what's her name again? Sylvia Chang, the actor, the Chinese actor. We do the Midsummer Night's Dream, and she's talking and singing in that piece, which she has done also in Beijing, and Leo Cookman saw it in Beijing. He's our resident conductor here, and he will conduct this piece in beginning of November. So I think we brought some brochures with us, and even CDs, if you are interested, of the newly released Shostakovich Symphony No. 5 and 9, recorded last year. We are very happy about the collaboration with Naxos. When I was in Germany, I did a lot of recordings for Naxos, and I wasn't even aware that this is a Hong Kong-based company. So Klaus Heymann is German-born, but living since 40 years, or even longer, in Hong Kong. A very interesting personality, and he built this meanwhile second largest CD company in the world, here from Hong Kong, and now I was very pleased to meet him here in person. And he not only did the ring cycle as a producer, but he also continues to work with us. And the last CD is now the Shostakovich 9 and 5, which just has been released in September. I talked already about the touring. This is a little map where we go. In Europe, it's too small for you, but we have 9 cities in Europe. We have the Greater Bay Area. We go to Bangkok, to Korea, and then a mainland tour in May, which is going to cities like, I have to write this down, cities like Wuxi, Shanghai, of course, again. We had a great concert in Shanghai, and they really liked the orchestra, so they invited us back immediately. Wuhan, Changsha, Shenyang, Harbin. Have you been in Harbin? It must be very cold up there. And then finished in Beijing National, NCPA, National Concert Hall. So it's great for the orchestra to be there. Touring is very important. It's important for the orchestra to be in a very short period of time together. It's like a sport team. And you are forced to live with each other over 2 or 3 weeks. You have a very tight schedule. You need to be concentrated to do dress-up rehearsal concert, and then you go to the next city. So, but it's also important to be in the international competition with other orchestras. When we go to Berlin or to Singapore, they compare us with other orchestras which are touring there. So the orchestra gets a good feedback about their performance. And of course, that's why the government is so interested that we tour to talk about Hong Kong and the cultural side of Hong Kong. Our education outreach program, I already mentioned some. Of course, our Symphony Under the Stars, which attracts around 15,000 people per year. Now, last year we could do it again. This year it will be even more in the original way, without chairs. You just sit on the ground, you bring your own champagne and food, and you just enjoy evening. I don't know when we open the Oh, so tentatively October 16, you can start to register. Yeah. And then we go in the communities with the orchestra. We have a composer scheme where we work once a year with local composers to bring their work alive, which they otherwise wouldn't have the chance if you start composing in an academy. There's no orchestra which will perform your pieces, so we have this program sponsored by the Robert Ho Family Foundation. We have schools, concerts, and master classes. We have our watch and listen page on the internet, and we have since 2 years now, it's in the 3rd year, the Orchestra Academy, where we select 6 fellows from Hong Kong APA to work with the orchestra for 1 year, which gives them a good insight how an orchestra life is. And after that, they know better if this is something they want to have, to sit every day in an orchestra, or if they prefer to teaching or to be a soloist. And we had now the good result that we have already one participant of the Orchestra Academy who could join the orchestra permanently. Of course, our auditions are internationally. That's why we get hundreds of applications for every open position. And the chances for Hong Kong students to get in the orchestra are comparatively low. So if we give them the training, it helps them really to make the best out of the 5 minutes they have in this audition process to convince the panel. Very good program. We are now talking. It's sponsored by Swire Trust. We are now talking to Swire Trust about the extension of the program. So this is our Orchestra Academy, and so far this is the end. So I'm waiting for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Benedikt. I think that you covered so many things, and you really painted a picture of not just how Hong Kong Phil is here for us in Hong Kong, but is also a great ambassador for Hong Kong overseas. I didn't know that you toured so much. That is a lot of touring. So I have a bunch of questions to ask you. Actually, let me just start with that last point about the Orchestra Academy and the recruitment of musicians. So Hong Kong Phil is obviously a highly desirable orchestra for musicians to work for. Just tell us a bit more about the recruitment process, the audition process.
Sure. There are different ways how orchestra would audition their vacant positions, the musicians. There's a jury, a panel. Some orchestras have the whole orchestra voting for a musician. So the orchestra, all orchestra is sitting there, and then they after the auditioners, there is a selection process, of course. So you get, or let me start in this way. Before the pandemic, there was the music director and 1 or 2 of the office, they went around to New York, to London, and to Berlin, and they auditioned musicians, and then they made a selection, and the last 10 probably were invited. So now with the new means of the new possibilities through the internet, we don't do this world tour. We let the musicians send a videotape, so they have to under conditions like live recording, they have to send us a videotape, and then this videotape will be distributed to the panel. And the panel consists of musicians of the section and some principals depending on the instruments. So let's say we are looking for a tutti violin, there will be the principals of the string sections and the principals of the winds, and then the music director. They are the panel, and they make a selection, and there are now programs where they just need to give points on online, and in the end you have a list of the 10 best people, and they are invited to come for audition. Other orchestras do it differently. They have only external panels because they don't want to get some biased people who are teachers or trainers. So they say we do it externally. Others do like we, a selection panel depending on the instruments we are looking for. So, and of course, yeah, we get a lot of applications for that. And in the end, it's these 10 people. They play. They get a certain repertoire they have to play, and usually they have 5 minutes to play this repertoire. This is the first round, and then there will be a selection of 2 or 3 who remain, and then there will be a second round. And if it's really difficult, then there will be a third round. But these people, they come with high expectations, of course, and for most of them, it's done after 5 minutes. So here we do it also openly. In other orchestras, you have a curtain where the musicians play behind the curtains. Of course, there are always ways to get around. You just knock on the door. You have a sign so that the jury member knows who is. But here they decided we have it open and have an open audition. So yeah, it's a process, and we couldn't have this process during the pandemic, of course, because nobody was able to do the quarantine or wanted to do the quarantine. So now we filled from January this year to end of summer. We filled all open positions at the moment. We only have one viola position open now, which is very good.
Yeah. So I understand you have very low turnover in the orchestra.
Orchestra is very low. And there are several reasons for that. First, as I said, it's one of the best Asian orchestras. Second, our salary level is, compared to other Asian orchestras, quite high. But the most important point is probably that your chances to get in another orchestra, and especially in a better orchestra, after 35 are quite low, because there are so many young musicians coming out of the conservatories, and they are excellent players. And in these 5 minutes, you have to convince the panel they might be better. Another question is how musically they are, and this we prove in the following 12 months. So every musician who get a permanent who gets into the orchestra has a 12 months probation period. And then after this probation period, usually it's you are in the orchestra for the rest of your term, your life.
Okay. Another thing that I thought was interesting is you mentioned that the chances of, let's say, a Hong Kong musician getting into the Hong Kong Phil are quite low. And I'm sure we've all been to schools in Hong Kong where the kids are learning violin and cello or piano. That seems to be the most popular instruments for kids to learn. But parents will be like, there's no way I want my kid to be a musician. I want them to be a lawyer or a doctor or something. So culturally, there is a bit of a bias for, against children being encouraged to make arts as a career, because it's not seen as, a good living, or it wasn't in the past. Is that a factor as well, do you think?
Well, I don't think that's different from other countries in the world. Parents usually don't want their kids to be professional musicians because they know how hard it is and how difficult it is. And so the good thing here compared to Europe is that there's a lot of motivation from the parents to bring their kids into the music. For whatever reason, the most obvious reason is, of course, to get in a better school, to give them cultural background. We don't expect that kids from 14 to 25 come to the concerts voluntarily. I mean, but when they have been in touch with classical music before, the chances that they come back to the concert hall with 35 or 40 years are, of course, much higher than if they have had no contact with classical music. I mean, it's a chance for them, and whatever they do, if they do sports very, very concentrated and devoted, that's also fine. I mean, as part of of the education, I think the most important thing is that we teach our kids to do something and to stick with it and not to change from one subject to another when it's getting difficult. So of course we try to motivate young kids that it's great to hear music, that it's entertaining, that it's something valuable for their life, and we try that they come back then later.
So that leads me to my next question. Have you noticed in your audience any trends in the demographics of who's attending the concerts? You know, who's coming to performances? Has that changed over the years?
Well, I don't know. I'm not long enough here in normal situations to see how it had changed in Hong Kong. But compared to Europe, for instance, we have a much younger audience here. We have many more families who come with their kids to the concerts, and also the adults are younger than in Europe, and that's very hopeful. So that's very good. I mean, in Germany, we can only survive because people are getting older and are more mobile when they go to concerts. So before they stopped going to concerts with 65, and now they can go until 80. So then, but here it's at least 10 years younger. So I think this is something really positive, and even so, if cultural or if classical music is compared to other countries still young here, I mean 50 years, if you go to Amsterdam or to Berlin or to New York, it's 150, 200 years, so it's still a quite young how do you say, discipline, but I think we can build up the audience, and it's very positive to see that. Yeah.
So I first met Benedikt in 2020, June 2020, when nothing was happening, and I did a piece for RTHK with him on how they were handling the pandemic. I don't want to bring up bad memories, but can you just tell us what the pandemic was like for the orchestra?
Oh, the pandemic had a lot of different facets. Of course, the most important thing was that we couldn't bring international artists to Hong Kong, soloists and conductors. So this was the chance for the young generation who said, well, to perform with Hong Kong Phil, I'm ready to do 1, 2, or even 3 weeks quarantine. And we had a case where somebody did 3-week quarantine, and after that the concert hall shut down. So he had to, and no, he could go back, yeah. But this was the worst case, yeah. Well, and then we had, of course, the time where the halls were closed and we could be in the hall for doing recordings. We had the time where halls were open to 50%, to 75%. The difficulty was nobody could predict what's happening in the next week. So in the office, of course, we were planning and rescheduling and inviting and saying, no, don't go. It was, looking back, it was, I mean, it seems like an interesting experience, but in that time it was really difficult. And when you had as an orchestra, for instance, in other countries, you had your own venue, then you at least could do something in the venue. But here you depend on LCSD. When they decided to close the venue, then it was closed. So the orchestra actually had 6-7 months where they couldn't come together. They had to practice at home, but they didn't rehearse or practice as an orchestra, and this was, of course, very difficult. This was very difficult, and we were all surprised, including Jaap, our music director, when it was possible again to perform together. Still, the quality was there, and it needed not much to come back to the sound and the homogeneity before the pandemic.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So the orchestra members are obviously very united, very on the same page, and very dedicated to practice at home for that many months.
Yeah, they couldn't even go. We have some dressing rooms in the cultural center, but they couldn't go there. And if you know the size of Hong Kong apartments, usually it's difficult to practice and so.
People don't appreciate your trombone at like 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, let's talk about a highlight, something positive. So winning Gramophone Orchestra of the Year, that is an amazing achievement. You know, that's really Hong Kong Phil punching above its weight. Can you tell us a bit of the backstory? Is that something the orchestra was aiming for, or you know, how does this come about?
No, this is nothing you can plan. Actually, it's a vote. You can probably a little bit influence the. It's a vote by the readers of the Gramophone magazine all over the world. So if you can motivate your listeners and your fans to vote for it online, then you might have the possibility to influence it. So I don't know how much Hong Kong votes. We don't really know exactly the number of votes. You just know you are placed as the first one in the vote. It was unexpected, and it was a big surprise. And actually, I didn't do much for that because I just arrived when we got it. But of course, it's nice to have it as a something you can work on and to bring it in the discussion with presenters. I mean, we compete with all international orchestras when we go on tour, and it's not that easy to convince them about a new orchestra. When they have every year coming the Royal Philharmonic, they have every year coming I'm not talking about Vienna or Berlin, but this kind of Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, the Paris orchestras, these are all orchestras which tour around the world, Tokyo, NHK. So to get into this cycle with a new orchestra, I mean, it's a risk for the presenters. How would the audience react? How is the orchestra actually on stage? So this helps certainly as a quality. Yeah.
And obviously, it must open more doors as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, people listen to you when you want to bring the orchestra in another city, in a concert hall. They recognize that this is a major achievement of the orchestra. And of course, why it's important also to tour is to make the orchestra known to conductors and to soloists, so that when you invite them from Hong Kong, please, Sun Chin Cho, the pianists, come, so they know already about the orchestra. They can choose where they go. Every major conductor can choose if they go to New York, Amsterdam, or they have many places. So what makes them special to think about coming to Hong Kong is mainly the quality. It's not yet a new concert hall, but it's at least the quality of the orchestra. A new concert hall also makes a difference. These conductors, they want to find out, is this really so good? I mean, everybody talks about Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg. Of course, the Elbphilharmonie exceeded the budget by I don't know how many 100%, but nobody is talking again now about this financial problem. Everybody talks about the Elbphilharmonie and the sound and the attractiveness of this hall. So I mean, I don't say we need to over budget, but just do it.
If there are any donors out there who would like to build a perfect concert hall, talk to Benedikt. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you do look at your lineup of conductors and soloists. I mean, to get a Yo-Yo Ma, to get a Lang Lang, to get a Joshua Bell is really pretty amazing. How do they react when you invite them? Is it an instant, oh yes, I want to come and play with Hong Kong Phil?
Well, as I said, at least they listen carefully, and then it needs a lot of other factors. It needs to fit in their touring schedule. It needs to fit in the availability of the hall here. Of course, most of them want to work with the music director, so it needs also to fit a week of those. So it's then in the name of Sir Jin Jong's case, it's not Jaap conducting. It's also Jaap would like to conduct him, but it's Tarmo Peltokoski, the very young Finnish guy who just finished with us last season, and everybody is talking about him. He's not even, I think, now 23, but an extreme talent. So even pianists like Yu Jia Wang, they are working with him because they find it exciting to work with such a genius. So Sun Chin Cho was convinced by Sun Chin Cho Sun Chin Cho was convinced by Tarmo to play together. So it needs a special combination of conductors and soloists and availability of the venue and their schedule, and then you can make it work. But of course, we are in discussion with so many soloists, and most of the cases it doesn't work on the first instance, but then you keep the conversation going, and at some point it works. So Yo-Yo Ma, for instance, of course everybody wants to get a ticket for Yo-Yo Ma, but he had only one evening, and this came together because he already promised LCSD a recital which had been postponed. And of course he likes Jaap, and he has a special relationship to the Chinese university, which celebrates the 60th anniversary this year. So our concert with him is the only orchestra concert on his tour through Asia. So many things in the end make it work.
Yeah, many things had to come together.
And also you need some Hong Kong dollar to pay them.
Yes, I'm sure. All right, let's talk about Jaap, because Jaap has been such a presence and such an influence on the orchestra. What is the post-Jaap Hong Kong Phil going to be like?
You mean the new music director, or the what?
Well, the new music director, I mean, he's left such an imprint. How does that, is that something that stays with an orchestra, or do they change as a new music director comes in?
Well, it's a tricky question, because of course you want that the orchestra, that the quality stays and probably even improves on a midterm, long term. On the other hand, you want a change. The change in the musicians want a change. As if you know Jaap, he's a very intense worker, and he doesn't let it go for a single minute, second on stage. So musicians would appreciate another character, talking generalized. Of course, it's not criticism. It's just you want to experience something different. So we have to find the right person who guarantees this, and who can build up on the work Jaap did. That's what it makes so difficult, and why you need time to get to know each other better, and why we need time as an orchestra to find the right person. I mean, Jaap does wonderful concerts, and he will come back, of course, also in after his time as music director for a certain number of weeks each season. So his footsteps are very large, you would say, and we need to find a person who gives another quality to the orchestra. To build up. I mean, after 12 years, these are all artists, and artists need new inspirations. So.
New inspirations, new energy. Okay, I've monopolized the conversation till now. We do have about 7 or 8 minutes. If anybody would like to ask a question, just raise your hand, and we'll bring you a microphone. And just tell us who you are before you ask the question. Oh, is the microphone there? Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Benedikt, for a wonderful presentation, front office and back office together. My name is Joost Schokkelbroek. I used to run the Maritime Museum, and now I'm a professor of maritime studies museum studies, I should say, at Hong Kong University. What we try to do in the museum world is to try to bring museums together and see what programs they have and how we can make the taxpayer feel that the money that they spend on taxes is used not once but maybe twice. So I have 2 questions for you. Firstly, can you say a bit more about alignment of programming with other orchestras, other, say, performing art institutions in Hong Kong? And secondly, you may have a room full of potential sponsors, and I think you're way too modest to point this out yourself, so that's why I do it now. Can you say a bit more about the Bravo program that you have? Thank you.
Thanks, Joost. about collaboration with other arts groups. Of course, the reason one reason is we are motivated or encouraged by the government to work with other art groups, but that's also something we ourselves are very much interested in. We just talked before. We try to collaborate every year with the Hong Kong Ballet, with the opera, of course with Hong Kong Arts Festival, which is more or less what we are doing anyway, playing concert, but with the Hong Kong Opera and the ballet. This is another way of making music, and for an orchestra, it is playing opera needs another reaction, another way of listening to singers, or in the way with dancers. So this is very challenging for us, and we try to do it once a season. We can't do it more because we have also our own obligations, but this is something very interesting to us. And now we are playing, actually this week we are rehearsing, and next week we are performing the Tosca with Hong Kong Opera. So enjoy this wonderful Italian opera together with us. And the Club Bravo, the Club Bravo is for us a way to of course to give a discount on our ticketing, but also to stay connected with our loyal customers. And we have several new features for this Club Bravo. If you are a member, it's very easy to get a member. You either buy a certain number of subscription concerts, or you pay $300. You can now scan your tickets, and actually Dennis would be much better to explain this to you. You can get then rewards with partners from as you know it from other reward systems. But the most important part is to stay connected and to give offers and information about our customers, and also to understand our customers better. When we have the data, we can see how many tickets they buy, and for what kind of concerts the tickets are bought. So and it of course helps also our fundraising part. And we have different, talking about fundraising, thank you for mentioning, we have different schemes for private companies, for private partners, but also for corporate companies to support Hong Kong Phil. It starts from a normal donation in one of our funds, annual fund, student ticket fund, or the newly created ambassador fund, which mainly supports us in our activities for touring and video. This is something everybody can do between 500 and 500,000 Hong Kong dollar. But also we have a very distinguished program for corporate companies with the concert sponsorship or patron. Our main patron is actually Swire. Very grateful for Swire support. But we can work with private companies on every kind of collaboration, from bringing groups to concerts, pre-concert talks, introduction to artists. So we are very flexible here. And of course, as you saw, 20% of the budget needs to be provided by fundraising. So we have a department out of 4 people who work on this. Yeah, that's so far to our fundraising.
Yeah, thank you. Another question, the gentleman in the red shirt.
Thank you, Benedikt. My name's Peter Ng, and I'm one of those Asian kids who used to learn how to play the violin and then gave it up in favor of a career in the law. But I do go to your concerts often, and I've always enjoyed them. And I like to compliment the orchestra on the excellent ring cycle, so I went there as a member of the audience, all 4 concerts, and I still revisit them on CDs from time to time. In your view, how important is recording for raising the profile of an orchestra? And is there any plan for the orchestra to release more substantial pieces of recording, like something like the ring cycle, but something similar, perhaps in the studio as well? Thank you.
Yeah, you see, that's wonderful. Start playing the violin, and you can still keep it up again. I mean, I started to play the viola again in the pandemic when I had no concert, so I brought my viola from Germany, and then I joined this SAR Philharmonic Orchestra, but now it's a little bit too much beside the job. But yeah, how important are CDs? I always say CDs are the business card of an orchestra. So when I come to this cycle, or if you go to concerts outside of Hong Kong, we usually bring the CDs as a sort of business card. Everything which is on CD is now available on Spotify, on Naxos library, on Apple Music. But to have something to give somebody as a present is one reason. Of course, the most important thing is the recording itself, which you listen on online, and this is it's like playing a concert outside. It's people hear the quality and can judge how good this orchestra is. So I say in this respect, it's still important. But we don't do a lot of them because it's very expensive, especially as we don't have a lot of experienced music producers in Hong Kong. So you need to bring them over from Europe. So the ring cycle was produced by Philip Roland, and even the Shostakovich, which I just mentioned, 5 and 9. Also were recorded by Phil Rowland from London. The next music director might have another preference on repertoire and on people he wants to work with, but this is usually in the very close relationship between producer and music director. So I would say, yeah, to promote the orchestra, the CD is an important part, but we do the next one is now the Flying Dutchman, the opera we play end of this season under Jaap, his last major project as music director, and this will be again a CD, which will then be a follow-up to the Ring Cycle, another Wagner opera.
Okay, I'm afraid. Oh, we do have time for one more question. The lady in the blue, just right here. Just raise your hand again. Yes. Then we'll have to wrap it up after this.
Jessica Park, FCC member, happily retired, recommended to anybody. I'll try to be quick. I was really afraid that you were going to ask a second question at the beginning about those people who had not been to the performance, and I was going to be sheepishly raising my hand. I promised to try to change that. A question is, if a young person is wants to get in to be a professional musician, where would they earn more money? Would they earn more money if they're playing a violin or one of those triangular ding-ding-ding things? So what about the financial reward? That's question number one. Question number two, representing Hong Kong, and we have the Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra that plays European music. And so, you know, we all love the Chinese orchestra in Hong Kong as well. I was just curious, sorry if it's a silly question, but do you ever have a performance where half of you guys are playing, call it Western music, and the other half of the same evening are playing the Chinese music? If not, I'd recommend it. I'd love to go to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So actually, we just had the National Day concert where we performed together with Chinese musicians, Western orchestra and Chinese musicians, a piece composed by a Chinese composer. And this commission was given by 23 Chinese orchestras, and Hong Kong Phil was one of them. So we thought this is the right occasion. So we don't do it often, but sometimes we collaborate. But you also have to know that there is no real traditional Chinese orchestra. What we see here is a Hong Kong Chinese orchestra is some sort of adaptation to a sort of orchestra, because some of the instruments did never exist in the Chinese tradition, like the cello or the double bass. So yeah, to that question. But please come to the cultural center. It's only a step over the Victoria Harbour, and very easy to get there. For most concerts, there are still tickets available. I think it's a great experience to just watch it. Yeah. I'm just thinking how to. So the best highest earning musician in the orchestra is the concertmaster, and he's the one right beside the music director in the violin section. And you might be surprised, the second best earning is the percussion player. And the percussion player is this one who plays occasionally also the bing bing. But of course he needs to cover a lot of different instruments, and that's why he's so well paid. Yeah.
That's good to know. I play
So
the drums.
when you have when you have nephews or whatever, you want to let them choose the percussion to study.
As long as you can soundproof your apartment. Yes. Okay, well, with that, we have to wrap it up. We try to have a hard stop at 2 o'clock, but I'd like to thank all of you for coming today, and a huge thank you to Benedikt for sharing all the intricacies of Hong Kong Phil.
Thank you all. Thank you.